Hello, everybody. Welcome to Football-Oranje. It is time for some more Eredivisie match reaction. I'm Michael Statham, and I'm joined by Mike Bell, the Football-Oranje editor and founder. We're going to talk about two matches today because it was Super Sunday in the Eredivisie. Feyenoord 3, PSV 1, and AZ 0, Ajax 3. So at the end of a brilliant month of Eredivisie football, okay, maybe at the top of the Eredivisie it was some good football. At the bottom, maybe not so much. We're now finding that Ajax are 7 points clear, and surely, Mike, it is their title to lose.
Yeah, I think today's results and the results in the past couple of weeks have all gone their way. Today's results especially, and Vitesse drawing yesterday. I think that PSV were really poor today, and Ajax got away. I didn't think Ajax played amazingly well. I think it was down to they were clinical in front of goal where you couldn't say that for AZ, who missed chance after chance. But yeah, I think today, looking at the table, you've got to say Ajax are now runaway favourites for it. And yeah, I would say that my money would be on them to win it.
Me too. We're going to delve into both of the games, and I think that we should start with AZ 0, Ajax 3, and we'll go on to talk about Feyenoord 3, PSV 1 in the second half of our podcast. So Ajax were lethal in front of goal. I thought they played quite well. I mean, better than they have recently. They've had some games where they've been run quite close by teams, but today they just showed that they were levels above AZ. And I know that it was AZ not at their best, but I thought that Ajax were playing better than they had recently, and AZ perhaps not so great. And I heard some punditry from Kenneth Perez, who used to play in the Eredivisie. He was doing it for Dutch television, and he said that maybe Calvin Stengs, Moran Boadu, they're just not as good as we think they are. Maybe they're overrated in the first place. They had one good season, and now we're finding out the kind of players they really are, where they'll turn up once every 3 or 4 matches, but not every week. And in games like this where AZ really need them, because we've seen, and by the way, I do tend to agree. I don't know what you think about this, Mike. It's concerning for the Dutch national team if that is the case, because we were really rating these guys for so long. And I do tend to agree with what Kenneth Perez was saying, because they turn up for when it's a really big match. Okay, not today. They play really well against PSV and Feyenoord, and yet scraped victories against ADO and lost at Utrecht. Says to me that they're not top players in the Eredivisie.
Yeah, I think that I love Calvin Stengs, and I love the way he played for the past couple of years, especially when he first came into the scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a different player now after his injuries. Before he got his leg broken against PSV, he was running at people. He was taking on players. He was like Arjen Robben. He would just run at you, come into the left and shoot. But now he doesn't seem to have any pace anymore. He doesn't seem to want to run with the ball at all. He'll get it. He'll slow down play. Then he'll look for a pass. Some of his passes are excellent. I think he's still got great vision. He can pull off a pass from anywhere, but he's not a winger anymore because he can't take anyone on. And that's why Pascal Jansen's moved him to number 10 role.
But he's not working enough defensively when he does play in the 10. He's not chasing. He's not tackling.
Yeah. I think, I can't remember his name, but an AZ legend came out a couple of weeks ago and said that, he'd like to sit down with both of them, because I think he thinks that their attitude's totally wrong. And I think that's right. I think that they've got a bit big-headed from the constant praise from last season. They've come into this season thinking that they're the Rolls-Royce players of AZ Alkmaar and they don't need to really try anymore. But now they're getting found out. I think Boadu especially, he was anonymous today. He wasn't in the game at all until that missed chance near the end where he should have passed it. Don't know who was running beside him, but that would have been a certain goal, but then he's put it into side netting. I think it was quite telling that all of AZ's chances really fell to Gudmundsson, who had a shocker in front of goal. But yeah, Boadu has one good game a couple of weeks ago, then the praise starts again, and this is another one where he's just not involved at all. We'll see, because I think Stengs and Boadu both have loads of potential, but they just need to pick it up, and then we'll see next couple of games if they can do it, because knowing Bordeaux, he could easily go to Ajax away and win 1-0, and Bordeaux scores the goal off a Stengs pass. But yeah, we'll wait and see. I think today Carlson was the best player on AZ's side. Yeah, and the jury is rightfully out right now on Bordeaux and Stengs.
AZ definitely still made lots of chances against Ajax, but just didn't take them. The best ones fell to Gudmundsson. In my notes, I'm pretty sure I've written down he's had 3 good headers in that match. But there were some really good things for Ajax too. A much more positive performance in them. I thought Alvarez was much better in midfield than he has been recently. Klaassen coming up with a crucial goals was also pretty good. And great to see David Neres scoring off the bench. So there's lots of positives they can take away. Oh, and of course, Anthony scoring a crucial goal, because many people seem to think that he scores the 3-0s and the 4-0s rather than a crucial goal such as that. So it was good to see him getting that today. And I thought he had a decent performance. Admittedly, Wijndal sort of stood off him quite a lot. Again, another concerning one for the Dutch national team, with players like Wijndal, Stengs, Bodie not quite performing as well as we expect them to. But yeah, I thought that was a much more clinical performance from Ajax. And what a tough month it was for them as well, having played, Twente away, having played PSV, Feyenoord, and then this match today. They've come out pretty unscathed and 7 points clear at the top. So it could have been a lot worse for them.
Yeah, I think I've had a great month. They also beat AZ away in the cup as well. So, I mean, don't think I could do on any better. Especially when they're 2-0 down against PSV, thinking this could be a bit rocky. But now, 31st of January, they're well clear at the top. The rivals are all dropping points. It looks very good for them. Yeah, and Tadic is back on form. He got an assist today. His cross for Klaassen was brilliant. And yeah, their key players are stepping up in the moment. Klaassen, yes, he hasn't been great recently, but he scored in the last game. He scored again today. Instinctive in the box. I think the only one for me would be, you'd see Haller doing more in terms of goals. But then they've got Lassina Traore back on the bench today. Brobbey was there. So they've still got options on the bench as well. So yeah, I think right now you look at Ajax, look so strong. I think Alvarez is coming into midfield. He's going to link to Valencia in the window, but it looks like he's staying. It looks like he's now got a role until Kudus gets back. And Gravenberch is as great as he always is. And then another positive was the performance of Wrench at right back. I thought he was excellent, the 17-year-old. So yeah, just all around lots of positive for Ajax today. Maybe the only one was Skurs with another minor error when Bordeaux got through, but yeah, I think they were pretty solid around. I think Onana especially had a great game today as well.
Yeah, an absolute return to form for those guys, for Ajax. Now we've got another game as well today that we shouldn't go too long without talking about. Before we do talk about final PSV, if you are watching live, do make sure you drop us a comment. We've already had one from Mouse Down about Noah Lang playing for Oranje. Of course, he's playing in the Belgian league now, and a massive shame he's not playing for Ajax, because I really do think he'd get into this team now. He'd definitely have a role to play. And I'd agree with that. We were talking more about the Dutch national team very, very soon on Football-Oranje. I'm sure many things will be up on the website to do with that because of the Euros coming up, but also the March friendly games, the March World Cup qualifying games, shall I say. Now, the final PSV, 3-1 to Feyenoord, and it wasn't the result I was expecting. I thought PSV were going to win today, but they didn't turn up, almost at all. But when Feyenoord went 1-0 up, I thought, I think they'll defend this. I think they'll see this out. And then they went on to win 3-0 up at half time. It was incredible. What's your overriding feelings from the match? Did you think that Feyenoord played particularly well and it was them kicking back into gear for the title race, or were you more disappointed with PSV?
It's a bit of both. When I saw the team sheets, I was surprised that Feyenoord went with Linson up front, no Sinistera, Haps again on the left. But again, the cat got it right. I think Mark Diemers had probably his best game for Feyenoord today. I think he was excellent. But PSV, I think PSV are struggling right at the moment because of injuries, because they don't have their midfield out there. And when you look at the team sheet, and Ryan Thomas is starting again, Maro Jr. starting again. I know he did well off the bench against Emin, but that's probably his level. These players aren't Cody Gakpo, they aren't Madueke, they aren't Mario Götze. When you take these players out of PSV, you struggle, and we saw that today. I thought, they had quite a lot of chances, couldn't score them. Zahavi was denied a couple of times by Marsman, who's having a great season since Bailo got injured and he's come into the side. I think Feyenoord tactically got it right today, and PSV struggled. But that's, you can't blame them because of the injuries that they've got. And, Schmidt has to get those players back as soon as possible, or they could fall further and further away in the title race.
The attacking midfielders are sorely missing from PSV. When they were playing against RKC, they only had chances because of the things that Marlon and Zahavi were able to create. And then today, they just lacked a cutting edge for most of the game, and then they were just relying upon things put up in the box and knockdowns. And this just suits Feyenoord down to the ground. If they can sit back and win headers and kick balls away, then it's easy. They didn't get Marlon the ball enough around the penalty area, and then whenever he was there on the ball outside the 16, there was no one in the penalty area to sort of take chances that he would create. It was so difficult for them. And Maro's a good player, but you don't want to rely upon him to put loads of crosses in the box. And Thomas, I don't know why he keeps getting tried. It's pointless. Why not have an academy player in there instead? But yeah, they really missed their attacking midfielders again today. Taran came off the bench, and Gakpo is still out. Gertz is still out. They should all be back very soon, but is it now too late? I know the season isn't over, but 7 points is a long way to claw back.
Yeah, you're looking at PSV having to beat Ajax, and then hoping that Ajax trip up against Feyenoord's, AZ's, maybe a few games, and then PSV basically being perfect for the rest of the season, which I just can't see at the moment. They're faltering at the moment, and they've been my favourites all the way through the season to win the title. But I think these injuries they've ruined it for the past few weeks. Players like Gakpo and Götze are so pivotal to this side because the options below them are just so poor. And you got to look at somebody like Pablo Rosario as well, like playing him alongside Sangare at times. Like that's two defensive midfielders on the side, and you couldn't get anywhere near Feyenoord in the first half. Why play both of them together if that's the case? Bring Rosario off and put somebody a bit more attacking on. Like somebody like Van Hinkel, I know he's just back from injury, but he didn't come on today. Surely even a half-fit Van Hinkel is better than Ryan Thomas at the moment, because I just think I don't know how he gets a game for PSV. I think his level is well before that. Maybe he could be a good player for Utrecht, Groningen, but not this level. I think that PSV have Europa League, and they have the Cup. Maybe them two will take their focus now, because 7 points might not seem like a big gap, but in Eredivisie when Ajax can pretty much beat anyone, it's a big gap to claw back.
I think the only thing you could say for PSV is that Ajax will drop points at some point, and they've been playing so well that they do a little dip. They've had these games where they've been quite tight and just scraped a win, and I feel as though that will change at some point. But with that cushion they've built up now, I don't see it being surpassed. Even though Ajax still have to go to PSV away, Feyenoord away, Vitesse away, I think it's going to be enough. We've had some comments. Let's have a quick look about these. I think most of them are to do with Ajax, but we got Ajax expects to dominate the league, and the Baker. The test is going to be in the Europa League. Yeah, I think that if they start prioritising the league and not the Europa League, that's going to be devastating for Dutch football. Ajax and PSV are two main title contenders, and yet they're also in Europa League competition still. Now, whilst that's a good thing because you want your best teams in the Netherlands competing, it could also be adverse for if they decide to prioritise one competition over another. And I know that PSV want to compete on multiple fronts. I just think with Ajax PSV also being in the Cup, that it's going to be too many games for them to try and prioritise everything.
Yeah. Both sides have tough European games. Lille, they're not going to be pushovers. I know Ajax did well against them in the Champions League, but it's a totally different side. And that's a tough game to get through. And Olympiacos aren't going to be easy for PSV either. But, you're looking at both of them. They're both winnable. Dutch football needs them to go through for the coefficient. Hopefully they do. And, hope that Ajax, because they do have some players coming back now, they've got, Traore coming back from injury, they can start rotating a little bit more. you saw it today. Rensch can come in from Israeli and do a good job. Martinez can play at left back and do a good job. Got Kudus eventually coming back. They've got the squad depth to actually rotate and against some of the weaker Eredivisie sides, and then put their strongest teams out for Europa League games. But yeah, we'll see what PSV can do, because if they keep getting injuries and then they've got these tough European games coming up as well, that could be detrimental to their league campaign.
Yeah, the COVID and the shortened Eredivisie season as a result haven't helped PSV. Ajax seems to be handling it a lot better. All these games are really catching up with PSV. And I know that Roger Schmidt really works them hard to try and get the results that he wants. And you can see that it's starting to kick in for a few of those players. It's almost too much, too intense, which is great for PSV as a whole. Probably better than what they used to. It's really intense training. They're going to become better players, but not if they're all going to get injured. And the Time says, Pokemon Triangle of Ajax doing well against Feyenoord doing well against PSV, and PSV doing well against Ajax strikes again. Yeah, they all seem to beat each other, don't they?
Yeah.
And what about Groningen here? Could they be in a top 4 finish? Well, having lost to Heracles this weekend, I doubt it. But certainly a team that could still be with the shout is Vitesse. But 2 poor results on the trot might suggest that they could be out of the title race now as well. January was their month to get some headway onto the top 2, and it hasn't really happened. They losing to VVV and dropping points against RKC. But I don't want to hear about Bazur and on his performances this season. Could he return to the national squad? Well, we have recently spoken about Bazur, and we do really like him. I think he's had a great rejuvenated season, don't Mike? And he actually featured in my top 10 players for top 10 Dutch players to watch last year. You can go back and watch that on Football-Oranje YouTube channel, so should you so wish to hear more about Bazur. He scored a good goal against AKC, but again, his influence wasn't enough to seal 3 points.
Yeah. For Vitesse, just to comment on them, it's a shame because you had AZ running Ajax so close last season. You had Vitesse, and it seems that the wheels have just come off against 2 sides that should be beaten. VVV and Giacomakis is a great striker, but Vitesse, if they're playing well, they would have beat them. And then dropping points against RKC, it's just unforgivable if you're in the title race. So yeah, it's a shame to see their title race just totally falter against 2 sides that they really should have beaten. But Bazura, yeah, the only thing I can think of is the fact that if Bazura is coming into the national team, who's getting dropped? You got centre backs, so many. You got De Ligt, Van Dijk, De Vrij, Botman's coming through. You've got Skurs. I'd maybe pick Bazura over Skurs at the moment. Veltman as well is getting games for Brighton. He's doing all right. And then if you're picking him as a midfielder, are you picking him instead of Koopmeiners, De Roon? The options are all there for the Netherlands. I admit that Bazura's having an absolute great season, and I'd like to see him back in the national team, especially to start going with a 5-man defence. But it's tough for De Boer because he has so many options in these 2 positions that he would play in. Then who do you leave out? That's a tough one. For someone like Noah Lang, it's easier because you say drop Ryan Babel. But if you're going to drop someone for Bazura, it's a tough one.
That's right. I feel as though we've moaned about RZ and PSV, and we've talked up Ajax so far today, but we haven't moaned about Feyenoord. They play well today, but I want to moan about them because why can't they play this like this more often? Against Heerenveen, there was a completely different team out. Or at least it seems so, because they were so dreadful and played quite well today. Is this the influence of Dick Advocaat? It's not as if it's a young squad where, because the young players are going to be inconsistent, it just seems as though they couldn't be bothered in midweek.
Yeah, I mean, the stories all came out after that loss that, the players weren't listening to Advocaat anymore. And then you look at their attack and you're thinking, Jorgensen doesn't score goals, maybe he's going to leave. Prato's been a really poor signing. And you're relying on Brian Winston. Again, we came into today, both of us are probably thinking PSV were going to win that game, and then, Feyenoord comes out a 3-1 win. Again, it's probably built on the fact that they're defensively so strong. Senese's had a great season. I thought Botahine was great today. Gertruda's been a revelation at right back, and Moasia's doing really well, and Marsman too. So, when you got that strong defence, you just need the attack to do it, and today it did. As I said, Diemers had his best game. Winston had a great game. He scored, and Burgess was back on form with a good goal. You question why you can't do that every week, and they're just inconsistent, and that's got to be something that Slot has to come in and change next season and try and find that way of getting them to win every single week, like Van Bronckhorst did when they won the title, because the squad is better than what it's showing. Herenveen, very poor side. To lose that game 3-0 was embarrassing in the way that they did it. So it's just the Eredivisie. You can lose 3-0 to Herenveen one week, and then batter PSV the next. It's why I love the Eredivisie. But it's frustrating for Feyenoord fans why they can't play like that every single game.
No, you are right. It's very easy to forget that the Eredivisie is not a normal league, and it just can be a bit crazy sometimes. And it was great to see the number of goals increase after some 0-0s recently. We don't want to see 0-0s in the Eredivisie. On to Geertruida. I think he's really in line for the Netherlands. I can see a call-up for him, and I can really see him getting into the... I can see him playing in the Premier League, if I'm honest with you. The style of player that he is, and how much he's improved recently, I think it's phenomenal. And his versatility playing centre-back and right-back is also very useful for him. I just think that he's going to play for the Netherlands, and that might be it for him. He can certainly be an asset for Feyenoord if they want to cash in on him at some point.
Yeah, he's doing what Karsdorp did when he first came out. He's playing really, really, really well for Feyenoord, and then it's going to lead to a call-up eventually. But again, options, you look at Netherlands right-back options. You've got, Dumfries seems to have it on lock. You've got Tete, he's starting to get games for Fulham. Hateboer at Atlanta. You've got Timothy Fosu-Mensah finally getting games for Bayer Leverkusen. You've got Frimpong, who's just gone now. Now you've got Geertruida. You've got Veltman, who can play there. Again, there's just so many different options. Teze can play there, even though he's been turned into a centre-back by PSV. But for me, I agree. I'd call him up next time in March, see how he can do, because he's been a revelation this season for Feyenoord, and I think that defensively you can offer more than half those options, and going forward he's a threat, and especially in the box from crosses he seems to always be able to get on the end of corners and free kicks as well.
Yeah, he's certainly developed his game so much this season, and he's added so many different sort of strings to his bow as well. I think whoever's been training him, it could be down to Advocat at the end of the day, but he's definitely come on. And the final defence is brilliant. We've got a comment here about Ajax from Jason de Brown. With Ajax getting players healthy, it's going to get crowded for the starting 11s. Who do we see being left on the bench? Or have a nice rotation with the Europa League and the cup matches coming up? Good question. I don't think there's too many players knocking at the door, but it was good to see David Neres score today. I think that means he's in contention again. Brian Robbie's a promising youngster, but he's not going to be starting strings of games unless Haller gets injured. And by the way, just to add to your comment about Haller earlier, it would be nice to see him score more goals, but he has scored twice and assisted 4 in his first 5 games. So I don't think it's a bad return if you're not too familiar with the players you're playing with. But I think in time, I can see what you're expecting from him, that he could be quite the goal scorer in the Eredivisie.
Yeah, I think if play for Ajax, you've got to score goals, and it's great. He's had a good start, but I think he's to be more of a threat today. I think that today the threat was coming from Anthony and players around him, more than so from him. But we'll see in the coming weeks, because these are tough games that he's playing. He's doing well, and we'll see when he comes up against the lower teams in the league, then he's probably going to rack up the goals in those games. In terms of players getting left on the bench, we've not mentioned Quincy Promes. He might be away, which it's not a bad thing for Ajax, because I think he's terrible. Spartak Moscow want him, but we'll see if Ajax are getting linked to Trésor of Willem II, another player from Nordsjælland. So we'll see if they bring in somebody as a replacement as well, because I don't think they need to. Yeah, I think they've got the options there on the bench and in the under-21 side to replace Promise. So Neres today coming on. You've got players like Hansen. They got debut yesterday. I've not seen him since. Univar, players like this that they could eventually give games to. I don't think they need to really replace Promise, especially since he's been played mostly as the number 10 this season, and you're going to have Kudus back as well. So yeah, I don't know why they would go out and spend money on somebody that they don't really need instead of giving players from the academy a chance. But we'll see what happens tomorrow. We'll see if he does get this move to Spartak Moscow. And if he does, that's a good riddance to him because he's been terrible, and hopefully Frank de Boer will drop him from the national team as well.
Well, Ajax seem to be getting a reputation the last couple of years of buying players they don't really need rather than using their academy. I mean, Sean Kleiber is now their 4th choice right back, and they just spent money on him. Whereas 3 of the right backs they've got are all from their own youth academy, and they didn't spend any money on those. And no letting Noah Lang go, for example. And I know that Anthony's comes with great excitement, but if you've got Lang there, he could be starting these games and scoring the goals that Anthony is doing right now. Obviously, a greater risk, but you are right though that they have got some nice options. And to answer this question from Jason, yeah, it seems as though they'll end up having some great rotation. He's already coming back that Promise has been awful, and he agrees with you. Yeah, so I forgot what I was going to say now, but I had a point about their squad. Do some filler for a second, Mike. I've forgotten my point.
Yeah, I think that before the season, you said Ajax's squad is the deepest along with PSV's, and you'll see what happens when PSV get injuries and they drop off. Whereas Ajax really haven't had that. Kudus is the only one that's been out for a while, and you could say that was detrimental to the Champions League because he was so good. But yeah, I just feel like have these players in the academy. They got the under-21 squad. Where's the progression if they sell Promise and sign an 18-year-old from Denmark? You're looking at Hansen, who was so good for Netherlands youth teams and made his debut last season, but hasn't been involved at all this season. He's been stuck in the under-21s. Maybe his performances haven't been great this season, but no wonder, because he's probably thinking, well, I was part of the first team last year. I thought I was going to get a chance, and now I'm stuck in the second division. I'd like to see him get a chance because he's an important player for the future. And if Ajax is going to sign all these players up, Robbie might leave at the end of the year. They've got to show some progression and not just keep buying 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds from Brazil and Denmark to block these players' path.
I was going to mention how if you're an AZ or a final right now, you're out of Europe, and you might be contending for the cup, you might not. You can play these players every week, every game, and it's great for their development. Here, Trauer is a good example of that. He's going to play every game now at the end of the season, as long as he's not injured. But I'm thinking of players from Ajax, for example. They need this rotation because Ryan Gravenberch, he's played like every single game for goodness knows how long now. He's going to get crocked. He's going to get an injury like most of the PSV squad at the moment. They're picking up little niggly injuries. And it's not going to be sustainable if they're going to be playing him twice a week until the end of the season. If they keep going in Europe in particular, that's going to be a massive problem. Same for PSV too. We need to start wrapping up this podcast, Mike. And are there any final thoughts from you about the 2 games today?
Just a final word on AZ. I think they're paying the price today this season for not really getting a replacement for Idrissi. Carlson's been great, but on the other side, you have to go and move Stengs to number 10. You need to have that other winger who's going to score some goals. Gudmundsson's not the answer. Abukalaha is not good enough eventually, and you saw it today. The options on the bench were none. You had Jelly Doohan, who doesn't score goals to under 21s on the bench. They have all these players that they always have on the bench. They never play. Goodmine comes to mind. He's always on the bench, but he never comes on. This shows you that as a club, they don't really trust those youngsters that are coming through. Reinders has got a few appearances in recent weeks, and I thought he's been pretty good. He didn't come on today, but I think AZ, we've praised their academy over the past few years, but right now they don't seem to be bringing anyone else through, and especially because Boadu is their only striker that they've got now. They got rid of Druth. They've got nobody on the bench to come on. If Boadu got injured, they're going to be playing with wingers up front, which I think is strange. Not going out in the transfer market and brought in another attacker, and they're really paying for that, because that's probably another reason why Boadu's not got the right attitude, because he knows he's not going to get dropped because there's nobody to replace him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that AZ also, it's not helped that Danny DeVitt's been out. I think he's a key player for them, with his fight and his spirit in the box. But I'm just getting a bit annoyed with AZ's lack of rotation, lack of squad depth, and giving these youngsters a chance, because what I've seen on the pitch today, if you're a youngster and you're looking at Goodmanson missing chance after chance, and maybe a good mind, maybe something like that could have came in and done a bit better, but don't seem to be getting a chance. It seems to be the same players every single week. Evgen came on again today for a little cameo, did absolutely nothing. But the next game he'll come on for another little cameo and do absolutely nothing. It's just the same every single game.
I just seem to be going backwards into that rut of just being the fourth or fifth best team, because they can't produce it regularly enough. It used to be that they couldn't always beat the big teams, and now it seems to be the opposite, where they seem to be quite good against the big teams, and then can't beat someone at home in a midweek game. And that's going to be the problem for them. It's just going to carry on and on and on until they can get, in my opinion, another coach who's going to really kick some of these guys into gear and make some brave decisions, because nothing's brave from what Pascal Janssen's done. He's had some nice results because he's got some good players, but they haven't been consistent yet under him at all. Getting on top of Europe as an example. Yeah, so it's a shame that we ended up on that note. And also a shame that, in a way, we don't have a really exciting title race now at the moment, because Ajax are 7 points clear. Doesn't mean it's the end of the season, though. There's still plenty to fight for. And there are also many, many games to come. And like I said earlier, Ajax still have to go away to Vitesse, away to Feyenoord, and away to PSV. So there could be many surprises to come. But apart from some upcoming stuff, we can tell you very quickly that we'll be podcasts to do with the Dutch national team very soon. And just having a classic podcast back as well. We'll be back on iTunes and SoundCloud if that's where you usually listen. We'll be back with small match reactions to the Netherlands in March. And I think they're in February as well, aren't they, Mike? But yeah, there's no, they're not in February. Yeah, starting in March.
Just March, yeah.
Yeah, but plenty in the build up to that. And yeah, if you enjoy these kinds of things from us, whether they're match reactions, whether it's the Eredivisie stuff, do hit the like button and comment below if you're watching live or not. What you've been thinking of these? Do you want to keep going? Let us know. But yeah, from me and from Mike, thanks for watching.
Thank you.